Hi, I'm Anita.
And I'm Krista.
And this is our video assignment on crime and
Deviance! In the article, Canada Should Decriminalize All Drugs, written by Michael Spratt, the best thing to do for the streets of Canada is to rewrite the law and give drug users more freedom. Dr. Israel Levy expresses that drugs and decriminalization are the problem when in fact, according to Matthew Fleury and Michael Spratt, it may be the solution. He believes that by focusing more on importers and traffickers, more lives would be saved rather than worsened. Spratt also discusses that by not decriminalizing drugs, existing problems will only worsen. People will continue to be jailed with no chance of recovery. People will continue to die. More crimes will occur. More people will become homeless. More people will become addicts. More infectious diseases will arise, and more sex trades and overdoses will happen. Decriminalizing drugs will help decrease these problems.
This continuous war on drugs has been an ongoing crisis in our society for several years. Beginning with the Opium Act in 1908, put in place to prevent, treat, and control a variety of licit and illicit substances, including cannabis, heroin, metamorphines, ecstasy, tobacco, alcohol substance use and abuse, inhalants, prescription and over-the-counter medication. Despite the efforts of the Opium Act and several other initiatives taken since to reduce the growing fatal consequence of illegal drug use, these acts of deviance are still very prevalent in today's society. The relationship between the use of illegal drugs and what is considered acceptable and unacceptable within our society has over time caused the issue to become worse rather than improve. In our society, drug abuse is perceived to be an act of deviance and is thus rejected and viewed as a criminal offense to society at large. This paper will be focusing on three theories: the functionalist theory, conflict theory, symbolic interactionism theory, and how they relate to the issue of substance abuse. We will also be looking at how this ongoing issue and the actions being taken to solve it are being viewed in today's society. The functionalism theory. Substance abuse is obviously viewed as a negative thing. From a sociological perspective, it is referred to as deviant behavior. Sociologist Robert K. Merton, in his Anatomy model, divides our society into 4 separate subgroups. These subgroups either accept the means and goals of society or reject them. The group that is associated with substance abuse and other forms of deviant behavior are known as the retreatist. These individuals have rejected both the institutionalized means and cultural goals of society. Question: how does a retreatist become a retreatist? What makes them reject the goals and means of society? To answer this question, we must first understand the concept of socialization. What is socialization? According to the Webster Dictionary, socialization is a continuous process by which an individual acquires a personal identity, learns the norms and values and behaviors and social skills appropriate to his or her social position. Socialization starts within a family setting. However, because the family dynamic plays such an important role in forming the identity and personality of its members, its influence is often the premise to whether these cultural goals and institutional means are rejected or accepted. In the news article that we have been discussing, Michael Spratt refers to a survey done on an average of 1,000 participants in Vancouver in the year 2011. The survey goes into great detail about the extreme consequences of substance abuse in the form of illegal injectable drugs. The results of this survey show that over the period of 15 years, 87% test positive for hepatitis C virus, 17% test positive for humane immunodeficiency virus, 80% of participants had been incarcerated at least once in their life. 38% of participants had previous involvements with the sex trade industry. 59% of addicts experienced non-fatal overdoses, and an unknown percentage passed away before the completion of the survey. Spratt later on states that this so-called war on drugs has been a complete and abject failure. Although these results show us undeniable proof that there is a problem within our society, the fundamentalist theories show us a different aspect in which this problem can be viewed. The fundamentalist theory views deviance as a normal and necessary means to which our society needs to succeed. The division between us and them causes us, the acceptors of cultural goals and institutional means, to grow stronger in unity by rejecting deviant behavior.
Conflict theory is a theory propounded by Karl Marx that claims society is in a state of perpetual conflict due to competition for limited resources. A conflict theorist believes that society is constantly dealing with conflict by having no choice but to do things the way it's always been done because there is no other option that is better. Police, politicians, and citizens know that drug laws act as barriers to legal competitors and limit the trade to those willing to risk criminal sanctions. Because of this, addicts do not have a choice but to buy illegally, instantly giving them the title of deviant. The article demonstrates conflict theory by talking about how drugs are being abused. Canada considers those drug users as criminals and immediately puts them in jail, which doesn't help with their addiction and results in more problems like homelessness, crimes, diseases, overdoses, and death. Although drug abuse is a large problem in Canada, what is often overlooked is the effects of alcoholism and its effects on crime. Symbolic interactionist theory explains that people are defined by the symbolism around them. If something is considered bad and the person surrounded by it perceives it as good, mainly because it is looked at as good by their peers, then they will also see it as good, even if it may be bad. Popularity and acceptance by a person's peers is considered more important than that person's health and safety. In the article, symbolic interactionism theory is presented in two ways. One way is the way drug addicts are seen as criminals to the Canadian police. The police sees a person with illegal drugs because drugs are illegal to buy and use. Police immediately see that person as a criminal because of their illegal act and arrest them without a second thought. Another way is drug users continue to use these drugs because symbolic interactionism has a strong tie to addiction as well. The repetitiveness of seeing the drug over and over again turns it into a symbol, which turns it into something good for the addict and causing them to go back to it again and again, creating an addiction which would be a symbolic interaction with the user and the drug. A symbolic interactionist theory would argue that drugs are a problem in Canada and that people involved with drugs are a product of this theory.
Some biases that we found in this article were that Michael Spratt doesn't address any of the underlying theories that are discussed throughout this video. He also doesn't provide suitable background information about the Canadian drug policy. In defense to this article, the functionalist theory, the conflict theory, and symbolic interactionism theory all view substance abuse as a form of deviant behavior, whereas Spratt views it as a health issue. Instead of being viewed as victims, these citizens are being viewed as criminals. The focus is put on the users rather than the distributors, and the users are being put in jail instead of getting the help they need. This argument is what makes Michael Spratt's support towards implementing decriminalization of drugs such a strong one.